Hello everyone, welcome to Eternal Basics. My name is Pojo, and today I'm going to be talking about a question that many people have been asking me and that I find to be one of the most commonly asked questions in Eternal, which is how do I get started and how do I build out my collection of cards? So we're going to talk about what the most efficient route is for building cards in Eternal, and just in general, the best way to get started and get a feel for the game and get started playing. Fortunately, Eternal makes this pretty simple, and there's going to be a pretty easy path that we can opt for. And to put it in very, very simple terms, you need to first finish the campaign, then you want to move into Gauntlet and play as much Gauntlet as you can. Forge after that, once you feel that Gauntlet is getting too difficult. Then move into Ranked and use all of the money that you get in Ranked to move into Draft. That's the basic outline. So we'll talk about each of those modes in turn. Now, first things first, you have the Solo Battle campaign. This is what starts when you start up a game of Eternal. There will be 5 different missions, each of which has several different sub-missions that you can play with a basic deck of a particular type. And playing with that deck will unlock you specific cards. I can't play the campaign anymore, unfortunately, because I have already completed it. But you do want to complete the campaign if you can, because, first off, playing each of the different campaigns will grant you the deck for that campaign, which is a really good way to get started on your basic collection for Eternal. You get the green deck, the blue deck, the red deck, the yellow deck, and the purple deck, of course. And so all 5 of the factions, you'll get one basic deck for that particular setup. After that, there is a final boss. Beating the boss gets you 3 silver chests and also gives you the ability to start receiving quests, which is pretty important. I think you can get that in other ways as well, but you might as well beat the boss after beating the other 5 decks, and as a result, I think that's a pretty good way to just, of course, get your first set of cards going. Now, once you have that first set of cards, we've talked about how to build out those decks with better cards a lot in Eternal Basics. And if you want to look at the other Eternal Basics videos that we have, each of those first 5 basic videos show you how to put better cards into those decks. But the first thing that I actually do recommend is to take 2 of those decks and smash them together and just take out as many of the bad cards as you can and focus on getting just the good cards from 2 different factions. That's a really good way to get started and just have a decent deck just straight from the start to move into Gauntlet with. So that's the first thing that I'd recommend. Now, once you finish the campaign, you'll start getting quests. These quests can be located in the top left corner, and of course, they will give you these chests here if you do particular things with them. So some of them will be like winning versus battles, some of them will just involve playing a certain number of units, and you can grind these out in like gauntlets as well. So it's pretty easy to win quite a few of these chests, and the chests are good rewards overall. The gold chests grant packs and a decent amount of money. The silver chests are going to be the more common ones, and they tend to grant uncommon to rare cards and also just a small amount of money. And these are a really good way to start filling out your collection early on. I highly recommend that you do quests whenever you can. Just knock them out daily. They're pretty easy to do. If you're going to be setting up if you want to basically accumulate cards on a free-to-play budget, it's really just a matter of doing your daily logins, and you'll get these quests knocked out very, very quickly. Most of them are not that difficult. Okay, so once you have access to these quests, you'll also get free gauntlets and forges. And at this point, you definitely should be playing against the AI. Like, it's a good idea to play against the AI to get a feel for the game. You have actually a pretty long wind-up period, so if you want to jump into Ranked and you feel that you're a competent card player and you think you'll do well in Ranked, it's totally fine to go into Versus mode from here. But there are substantial rewards to be gained from Gauntlet and Forge, so we'll talk about each of those in turn. Now, with the Gauntlets, you are going to have your own pre-constructed deck here. So you can either use the decks that are granted to you from the campaign, or you can build something new. And like I said, I really recommend that you take 2 different decks and smash them together into something slightly better, because having a 2-color deck is significantly more powerful in Eternal than having a single color deck. Now, with these modes, you can look at this little question mark to see the full list of rewards. As you can see, your rank in Gauntlet is reset every time there's a new major set released, which hasn't happened yet, but will happen every now and then. So I wouldn't worry too much about progressing the Gauntlet too far. Indeed, progressing the Gauntlet too far is going to be your primary goal when starting out in Eternal. Now, every time that you win and lose, you'll adjust the difficulty of the Gauntlet. The Gauntlet's difficulty is based on 3 different things. First off, it's based on your overall rank, bronze, silver, gold, diamond, or of course, master rank. Secondly, it's based on how far into the Gauntlet that you are. So if you're on your 4th game in a Gauntlet, the deck that your opponent will have will be harder than on your 1st game in the Gauntlet. And indeed, you can run into these special bosses in Gauntlet at the very, very end, who will have some sort of special rule that affects the game and makes it different in that way. Winning the 7th match upgrades the rank of the Gauntlet, which increases the strength of the cards, but it also gives you a special chest that has 2 different packs in it, or 2 extra packs in it. These chests are really valuable, and they're a really fast way to get a bunch of cards early on. So getting as many of these chests as you can early on with the Gauntlet is a good way to fill out your collection and get started on decks that you can bring into ranked matchups. So I really recommend that you do that. Of course, every win in a Gauntlet upgrades your chests and upgrades your rewards, so Gauntlets are a pretty easy way to get started, and since they're versus AI, they're a good way to practice and start to get a feel for what's going on with the Gauntlet. Now, with Gauntlets, we'll talk a little bit about how to defeat AI more as we move into the Forge section, actually. Alright, so once you're feeling happy with Gauntlets, and like even as you're doing Gauntlets, you should also be doing Forges. You'll get a free Forge ticket at some point. I believe you'll get a second one as part of some particular quest. So 2 Forge tickets will eventually be available to you, and you can continue to buy Forges at 2,500 gold apiece. Now the value on Forges is a little limited if you're not winning the Forge. So it is important not to do too many Forges overall, but it's not a big deal if you just want to forge and you don't want to play against versus AI in drafts. The value is still pretty good here, and the nice thing about forges is that they allow you to pick whatever cards that you like. Forges are slightly different than Gauntlet. There's no end game boss, and the rewards are significantly better. So you can get actually significantly better rewards. As you can see, winning the last round earns you 3 gold chests, and also you get the special rank up chest whenever you win all 7 rounds of a forge, which gives you once again an extra 2 packs. So winning any forge gives you 4 packs if you are getting started. And at 2,500 gold, this is the best value that you can possibly get on packs, outside of just 7-0ing a draft, which is not terribly common, especially not for somebody who's new to the game. So doing forges is a pretty good idea, and we'll talk a little bit about a forge, and why not even walk through one here. Okay, so talking about forges, we're not going to play the entire forge here, but I'm going to talk a little bit about how it goes. You pay 2,500, and you'll get access to 25 different picks from 3 different cards. And you can pick cards based on what kind of colors you want to build a deck around. That's pretty useful. Or you can pick cards based on rarity. Of course, there are the blue rares here, and there are the yellow legendaries. You want to pick legendaries if you can. Legendaries are worth a lot of Shiftstones, and of course, they're usually very powerful cards. So picking the first card will define your first color for a deck. And then after that, you get your second color if you want to, or you can keep drafting in one color until it forces you to take a second color, because your decks will always be 2 color in Forges. Now, Venomfang Dagger isn't a particularly powerful card, so I'm going to move into a red color here, and we'll move into like purple and red. Now, when it comes to forges, you want to prioritize, first off, large bombs that will win you the game if left unattended, like Vara the Fate-Touched, for example. Make sure that you can pay for these cards. Don't completely mess up your curve for these cards, but be sure to pick at least a few of them if you can. After that, you want to prioritize cards that remove other units from the board. So, for example, a Torch deals damage to other units and is a fast spell. These types of cards are really, really useful and are very, very important for basically anything that's going to happen in the game. In addition, you also want to prioritize combat tricks, which is to say things like Rapid Shot or Finest Hour, which in some way affect the flow of combat. And you really want to weigh heavily on these when you're fighting against computers, because computers will always fall for combat tricks. So if you have them, you can usually get a lot of value out of them. And this is one of the main weaknesses of Eternal AI, is that they do not bluff, and they absolutely will take the best block available to them. So if you have a torch or something along those lines, it's really, if you have a torch or a Rapid Shot or a Finest Hour, anything along those lines will help you out significantly. After that, focus on cards that give you value, which is to say that they are in some way advantageous to you in multiple different areas. So for example, a Stonescar Magus is a card that gives you not only a body, but the ability to remove a unit from the board once that body dies. This card can usually trade 2 cards for 1 if you trade a 2/2 and into another 2/2. This one dies, and then it gets to give another 2/2, -2, -2. Sometimes it doesn't work out this way, but looking for value like that is really important. So this is a card that we want to get a lot of special treatment to. We also want to make sure that we have a valuable curve, which is to say that we want to have cards that are arrayed in such a fashion that we don't have too much of any one number, and also that we have enough 2 and 3 drops to make easy plays early on. So for example, a Rebel Sharpshooter is a good 3 drop, and we don't really want to take a lot of 6 drops here, because if we end up with only cards that we can play late in the game in our hand, we might get run over by the more aggressive computer decks. So I'll take this Rebel Sharpshooter here. Cards that deal direct damage like Flame Blast are removal and really important. Outland Sniper is also a good card because it provides once again that level of value, same as Stonescar Magus. But Flame Blast is a lot better, so we're going to take this one. Rapid Shot, once again, prioritize these tricks when you can. And I need to make sure I get lots of 2 drops, so Obsidian Golem is pretty important. Magma Javelin is also very good because it is a removal spell. Relic weapons tend to be very good for removing units and removing threats. In this case, I don't have any 2 drops, and I've only got 25 cards to pick, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab an Obsidian Golem here because it provides me good value, and it's also a good just 2-drop unit that I can play. You want to keep a decent balance of units. You want to have as many units as you can apart from tricks. Like you just don't want to weigh too heavily on tricks. Like maybe 8 spells is good. If you have a lot more than that, then you should start being worried. Rampage is solid. Obsidian Golem is another 2-drop, and I want 2 drops. Oni Ronin is a 1-drop that's actually very powerful due to its like early game presence. This card is very strong in Draft in particular, but in Forge it's a little less strong, but it's still a pretty good card. It's a base card in almost any Rakano deck. You can pick cards based on rarity because these are cards that are going to be important to you. Like if you see something premium and shiny, it's okay to grab those sometimes, and it'll add to your collection, of course. But do be sure to try and pick cards that are going to make your deck work. These monuments are pretty okay in these setups because they allow you to have both extra power and the ability to just create value. So we'll go ahead and pick one of those up. Subvert I actually really like for card advantage, but Morningstar is probably going to be a more useful card because it is one of those bombs that tends to end games. So we're going to go ahead and put that in. Torches, value torches. Torches are a really strong card, and removal is very important. Take another Rapid Shot, take another Ronin. This deck is already looking really aggressive and awesome. And now we get to pick between some rares. The first and last card will usually be rares or legendaries, and you will also sometimes get like other good picks here. Argenport Instigator is lovely here, and so is Ashara the Deadshot. Ashara the Deadshot is a card that can win a game all on its own if it's not dealt with, and against early computers that tend to have very little removal, this card is very, very strong. Argenport Instigator, on the other hand, is a card that's very strong in general, so I might want to take this card if I am, for example, building out a collection, because I know this card is really important in a lot of Stonescar lists. So I could grab either this one or this one, and I'd be pretty happy with either one. I think since I have 2 2-drops so far, and I don't have any more 2-drops, I'm going to take the Instigator. Ornate Katana is a card that has value because it allows you to draw a card when you play it, so we're going to go ahead and take that. Vara's Favor is a very, very strong favor, and fixing is pretty important in at least small doses. You want to have some fixing in your deck to make sure that you hit the cards that you want to hit later. And since I have a really big 8-drop legendary, it's nice to have a card like Vara's Favor, because I don't get to decide on my power base. The computer's going to decide that for me. Caleb's Favor is another good fixer. Combust is also quite nice, but I don't really have any tokens, and it's kind of negative value for me, so I'm going to take Caleb's Favor here. Rapid Shot, I love Rapid Shot. I've already got 2 Rapid Shots, but I could maybe afford a third. With 3 2-drops and 2 1-drops, yeah, we can probably do that. Alright, Oni Striker's nothing too bad. Ravenous Thornbeast is something that works with lots of tokens. These 2 are probably the choices that I'd want to make. I also don't have that many 3-drops, so maybe I take a Thornbeast instead. Blazing Renegade and Spirit Drain. We want to take here something that's worth a lot of extra value, which is Spirit Drain and is also removal. Smuggler's Stash is a really, really good value card if I have weapons, because it draws so many units and weapons from the void. This can often redraw 4 cards, and it's very, very good card advantage. But overall, I'm not sure that I'm that excited about it. I guess I have Morningstar and Katana, so Smuggler's Stash would be pretty cool. Ruthless Stranger is very aggressive. Rakano Flagbearer doesn't do much for my deck. I'm going to take the Smuggler's Stash. And for pick 25, I get a rare. World Pyre Phoenix is extremely high value and a bomb that ends games. Cabal Countess is a really powerful card that is both a combat trick and also a bomb that ends games, and Lurking Sanguar is less of a bomb that ends games, but it can be really cool if you have a deck that has a lot of 1-drop units attacking in all at once. This deck seems a little low on low curve creatures, so I'm going to take the Cabal Countess instead. Okay, so looking at these things, as you can see, we have a bronze chest, a silver chest, a gold chest, then a second bronze chest, a second silver chest, and a second gold chest. And then finally, the final bonus is your rank up chest. So you get 2 gold chests once again, and the extra 2 packs from the rank up chest, which is really, really good. So ranking both Gauntlet and Forge to Master, once you have them up to Master, you should probably move on and start looking at facing off against regular opponents. All right. So, once you've done your Gauntlets and Forges, and you've gotten really comfy with the AI, and you feel like you're feeling good about Eternal, that's when you start looking at Ranked and Draft. Now, the Ranked mode is pretty simple, and there will be a Casual mode in Eternal as well. It'll have, I believe, the same rewards as Ranked, so if you don't feel comfortable playing in Ranked, you'll be able to play in Casual, but either way, your MMR, which is to say your overall skill rating, will adjust. So if you lose a bunch of games, you'll eventually be matched against people who are around your same skill level. And even when you're just starting out in Ranked, you'll get matched against more people who are just starting out in Ranked than not. It might take some time for your overall skill rating to balance out, but it's worth it to do this and play a couple of games. Even if you feel like you're getting wrecked, eventually things will balance out and you'll start playing against people who are your level. Sometimes, like, the game can match you up against people that you don't feel you're prepared to deal with, but overall it should be pretty good about this. And once again, your matchmaking here is determined not only by your overall rank, which is to say bronze, silver, gold, platinum, or diamond, or master, but also by your overall skill rating. And so the amount of games that you win or lose will determine the strength of your opponents. So I wouldn't be too worried about playing ranked games or playing casual games, because eventually things will balance out and you'll get to a point where you're winning some and you're losing some. And that's usually what you want to go with. Now, this is a similar thing to Gauntlets and Forges, but you do want to build decks that are slightly less focused on silly combat tricks and slightly more focused on good removal and making sure that you can deal with all sorts of different situations, because the other players are going to be a lot trickier than you, of course, or not a lot trickier than you, but a lot trickier than AIs, rather. So you can expect a lot of different things in here. Learning about what people are playing, or if you feel like you're seeing a lot of a particular type of deck, building to counter that deck is really, really a pretty good idea. So for example, if you find that people are building a lot of Rakano, which is very, very common, you might run a deck that deals well with Rakano, like for example, a Sacrifice deck, or with lots of Grenadin drones and Slumbering Stones, and early stuff that allows you to block stuff, and then like big weapons at the end that just deals really well with this kind of stuff. I found that this deck deals really well with Rakano, so this was just my example, but if you're just basically, if you feel like you're having problems with any one particular deck, figure out what counters it, and try to build something that can deal with it that way. Don't invest too deeply into any one particular deck if you're not 100% certain that you want to run that deck forever, because it isn't to say that you can't build many different decks, but you will spend some time grinding with particular decks. So if you feel like the meta is gonna like shift one way or the other, it can be good to invest in a particular deck, but I wouldn't be too over the top with it. In any case, there are a lot of really good options that you can build. You don't have to put legendaries in most of your decks to make them competitive. There are some exceptions. Big Combre decks tend to want to run like 4 Sandstorm Titans pretty much all the time, but if you're in most different colors, you can usually find good substitutions. For example, Twin Brood Sauropod can actually sometimes even be a better card than Sandstorm Titan, or but there are still some cards that you're going to want, of course, and most of those are going to be at rare or lower. As you get cards, you can build around your particular legendaries. So if you manage to get your hands on a Sandstorm Titan, that might be a good time to start building a time deck. If you get your hands on a cool legendary and there's a cool idea behind it, look at your cards and see if there's something that you can build that will help out that deck. Because a good strong legendary generally says, please build something around me. And if you can do that, then you can usually build something that's going to be pretty competitive with people around your skill rating. So it's a good idea to give that a try. Early decks, Rakano decks are usually very, very strong. The list from Eternal Basics number 6 is available, and we'll also probably provide another list in the description that's an updated Rakano deck for people who want to play a Pauper Rakano deck. I recommend as some of your early crafts cards like Sword of Ikaria, which is an extremely good removal spell / Warcry thing. Crownwatch Paladin is a very good 2-drop that goes in most decks. Rakano Outlaw is a very good 2-drop that goes in most decks. And of course you want to get 4 torches, you want to get a lot of stuff like that. Okay, so once you're feeling comfortable with ranked, or anytime that you have 5,000 coins as you've been playing ranked, is a good time to go and draft. If you really, really don't like drafting, you can always just buy packs at 1,000 per, but drafting is usually a pretty good deal. Now, the way that drafting works is that there are 4 packs, and each of those 4 packs is going to be, well, essentially there are going to be like 15 different tables. Hang on a sec, sorry. There's going to be 4 tables, each with 15 packs on them, and 15 pseudo players, basically, who are playing. So what you do here is you sit at a table with a pack, you open up the pack, and you see your 12 cards in your pack. You get to pick one of those cards, and then you pass that pack to the left, never to be seen again. Someone from your right passes you a pack with 11 cards in it. And that person is basically someone from the past. They are not a person who exists right now, but they're always going to be the same person making the same choices, so you can watch what they're passing you to see what colors are open and what kind of decks you can build that are best. Now, drafting is pretty much always worth it, even though it is 4 packs for 5,000 coins, which is to say it's 1 less pack than you might get if you just buy that many packs. There is a minimum reward of 3 silver chests, which is about 750 coins and 3 uncommons. So not only do you get to personally pick all of the cards that you want out of 4 different packs, but you also get enough rewards to replace that last pack even if you don't win a single game. And you're probably, if you're any good at drafting at all, going to win at least 1 game. And like, you know, in general, it's okay to lose 0-3. Sometimes that totally happens. That still happens to me sometimes. And sometimes you will just draft a terrible deck. But you'll probably win enough games to make draft completely worth it. And so I recommend doing drafts instead of buying packs, because not only is it a really fun experience, but even if you don't really like playing draft very much, you can just rare draft and draft a bunch of premium cards and a bunch of legendaries and a bunch of like the rarest cards, and just like pick the cards that are most important to the decks that you're building in ranked. And your deck won't be very good. You might not even win that many games with it, but you'll at least get your pick of the litter for what kind of cards that you want. So I highly recommend playing out Draft. The reward for Draft is actually 3 diamond chests. Diamond chests give you not only a premium card, which is a very, very good card that you can disenchant for Shiftstones if you feel like it, but they also give you a pack and a ton of coins which you can use to buy more packs or more drafts. So really good idea to do Draft whenever you can, once you're finished with the Gauntlets and Forges and you're feeling really confident about playing against other people. And that's pretty much it. Once you're there, once you're playing a lot of ranked and you're just doing drafts every time, ranked into Draft is the most efficient way that you can accumulate cards after you have leveled up your gauntlets and your forges. So from there, just basically play ranked. Every time you have 5,000 coins, play a draft. And with that, you can usually efficiently accumulate as many cards as you like. As to disenchanting things, or rather breaking things down for Shiftstones. Now, you'll always be able to destroy extras for Shiftstones. I recommend that you craft a few of like the most important cards early on, such as Torch and Annihilate and whatever's really important to your deck. Good removal spells are really important. Good units. Basically just make sure that there aren't that many bad cards in your deck and replace them with good uncommons and rares. For legendaries, you will have to craft most legendary cards, and you can use the filters here to determine whatever it is that you need. But these will cost about 3,200 Shiftstones a piece, so save up for them. I don't recommend that you disenchant commons or uncommons very much, if at all. And I really don't even recommend that you disenchant rares unless you think the rare is really, really terrible. For example, most people don't think very much of the card Trail Stories, which is a rare that only has no particular value and only reduces the cost of a spell in your hand by 1. It's very useful only in fringe decks. This card might be a card that you disenchant. But in general, I recommend that you hold on to as many rares as you can, because there's a lot of good card accumulation techniques that will allow you to pick up just a really big pile of cards pretty quickly if you're playing very, very fast. If you absolutely need to build something, disenchanting rares is a perfectly good way of dealing with them. So you can just destroy these for 200 Shiftstones, and that'll be enough to get you up to particular things. But don't get too disenchant heavy, and try to hold on to as many things as you can. Same goes for legendaries. Disenchanting legendaries is worth 800 coins, or 800 Shiftstones rather. And it's pretty useful if the legendary is really, really not good. The only really, really not good legendary that I know of is Light the Fuse, and even then I'm loath to disenchant that kind of legendary because I think legendaries are a ton of fun, and you can always build fun decks around legendaries. So I don't recommend that people disenchant any legendaries, but if you want to, just look up a legendary tier list, and if you see some that just don't seem to fit in that many decks, and you're also personally not very fond of those legendaries, then I recommend that you destroy them for Shiftstones. And with that, you can build better decks. You can always use stock lists if you feel like you're not doing very well and you want to like try experimenting with something and feel out what a good deck looks like. I have certainly done stock lists before, and I've even built decks out of stock lists that ended up being very, very good. A long time ago, I was very fond of this RNG mid-range list that was listed on a website, and on rngeternal.com, which I later ended up writing for. And I eventually built something that was entirely my own called Stonescar Maulers, which has been just a really successful tournament list for a really long time. But I started just by playing a Stonescar mid-range list that somebody else came up with. So you can get good ideas from other people, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's totally fine to just build decks however you like and just play it your own way. I firmly recommend that whatever you do, you just have fun with it and you do whatever suits you the best. And that's really the most important advice that I have to give. Don't just don't just follow what people tell you on the internet, of course. Just if there's something that you want to do, go ahead and have fun with it. It's not going to be that big a deal if you lose. The games are 5 minutes apiece, and there's not like any like major difficulty or major problems with losing games. So it's okay to have that happen. That is about it for this particular tutorial. So just wanted to give you an idea of how to progress through Eternal. So once again, do your campaign first, do gauntlets and forges after together, and get yourself sort of acquainted with the AI, get yourself acquainted with the cards, figure out what the cards do, and also like earn those awesome rank up chests, because those are actually like really, really good value, and gauntlets are always the low price of free, so they're real fun to play. After that, you can start moving up to real opponents, and you'll get a good feel for how other people are playing, and you'll also get much better rewards, as well as those lovely drafts, which are just really good value, and they'll build your collection out really fast. You can hold on to premium cards, or you can not hold on to premium cards. It's entirely your choice whether you want shiny cards or not. Shiny cards are worth more Shiftstones, so you can disenchant those if you feel like you can destroy those if you feel like they're not going to do you a lot of good. That pretty much wraps it up, actually. So if you liked this video, you can always just throw me a like or subscribe. I also have a Twitch channel. I write on rngeternal.com, and that is pretty much it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will be back with more Eternal Basics videos soon, and I will see you next time. Have a good one.